Well, NCIS fans, they're back. Tony and Ziva have finally been reunited and spun off into their own series. I'm in conversation with Cote Pablo and Michael Weatherly next on Brio TV, the podcast. Hi, welcome to Brio TV, the podcast. I'm your host, Bill Brio. Yes, it's been 23 years since NCIS first went on the air. There's been a lot of cast changes on this series, especially in recent years, but a core couple has always caught the imagination of viewers. And I'm speaking, of course, of Special Agent Tony Donazo and ex-Mossad sniper Ziva David, played by Michael Weatherly and Cote Pablo. Now, a dozen years after her character's abrupt departure, the two actors have been reunited in a series they helped shape as executive producers, and that's called, of course, NCIS Tony and Ziva. Tony's now head of a security company located in Paris. That's where he reunites with Ziva, once thought dead, but now back and as kick-ass as ever. The two are trying to raise their young daughter, Tali, when Tony's security company is attacked and the family is forced to go on the run all over Europe. Cote and Michael were in Toronto when I interviewed them over Zoom right before the season finale, which starts streaming Wednesday, October 22nd. You can catch all 10 episodes on Paramount+. Please welcome two friendly favorites who clearly enjoy working together, Cote Pablo and Michael Weatherly. Hi, Michael. Hi, Cote. How are you today?
Great. How are you?
Very good. I love that beard.
Oh, thank you very much. It grew on me. Yep. Am I pronouncing your name properly, Cote? Is it
Cote? It's fine.
Cote. Oh, yeah. Cote. Let's get it right. And it's Michael.
Michael.
I think it's Meathead.
Oh, nice. Okay. Well, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today. And I really enjoy your show. It's quite exciting. Boy, it's like watching a James Bond movie every episode. So hats off to you both.
Thank you.
And you're in Toronto right now.
That's correct.
Either of you worked in Toronto before?
Not in Toronto.
I've worked in Calgary, believe it or not.
Oh, my goodness. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and I did Dark Angel in Vancouver.
Oh, there you go. All right. Well,
and I met my wife in Vancouver.
Vancouver's a special place.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we'll maybe try and get back to that. That's a great angle there. She is Canadian, isn't she?
Yep.
Yeah, terrific. So forget about Toronto. You guys have been in Europe, all over Europe, making this show. Is that an actor's dream to have an assignment like that?
Oof. Yes. We manifested a lot of things, the show being one of them, but we also wanted to sort of set it in a specific place. And we thought, we both like to travel. Why not make it Europe?
And we did know, just from a nuts and bolts business perspective, that NCIS, the mothership, was very quickly a bigger hit around the world than it was in the continental United States and North America. When I went away in season 3 and season 4 to France, I couldn't believe what a massive hit that the show had become. And I would come back to the stages and tell Cote and everyone, I'm like, guys, you don't understand. We're like the Beatles over there. And they're like, we're not. Okay, we're the Monkees, but we're definitely like we're a big band. And that took a long time for the show to get traction. So sometimes that's a great thing business-wise, because Harmon used to say this. Mark was a great purveyor of all things television, and with his experience on St. Elsewhere and Chicago, Hope, and all the different things that he had been experiencing over his career, he knew if you come out of the gate too hot, you can flare up and burn out, and it's like a virus. You kill too many people. You need to infect a lot of people. And so what we got lucky with was, by the time the writer's strike happened in 2005, which was unfortunate for everyone, and a lot of careers gets toppled and stopped by that. But we became in 2007. I mean, 7, 8.
I was going to say 2005.
2007, 8. We started airing on USA Network the same time that the strike happened. And so we blossomed on cable. And in the United States, then a few years later, as that started to dip, we came up on Netflix and we blossomed again on Netflix, and you discover these new audiences. And so before the trend of the vertical integration of everybody just having all the Disney products on Disney Plus and all the Paramount products on Paramount, when things were still moving around, NCIS the brand benefited so hugely from that cross-pollination, and it really set the table for what we're able to do, which is take two characters from the basic, the genetic code of a big hit. We get it's not Joni and Chachi, it's Fonzie and Richie, and we're taking these two loved characters, putting them in a love connection show, elevating the stakes, elevating the budget, putting it in Europe, and then
throwing challenges, and then putting it on
their
love, having them parent,
and then putting it on Paramount Plus, which is like there's this barrier to entry for how can people who are used to watching it for free. I mean, we were talking about this before. It's like then they have to find their way to it on Paramount Plus. I, for one, am buying a lot of gift cards this Christmas for Paramount Plus. That's my
giving them the gift of my performance.
Yes. Well, no, my mom was like, I don't have Paramount Plus. And I go, but you said you were just watching Tulsa King. She goes, that's Sylvester Stallone. And I go, that's on Paramount Plus. And she goes, oh, then I have that? And I'm like, oh, all right. I'm just going to.
Well, I'm glad she's plugged into it. So it's more like Sam and Diane being spun off and running around Europe than what you're saying.
I think that's a good call, right? Yeah, everybody loves Cheers.
Yeah, as Michael mentioned, he met his Serbian-Canadian wife, Bojana, right in Vancouver in 2009. The couple have 2 children. Now, we'll be back with Cote and Michael right after this. Time once again to check in with Emily Gagne at Hollywood Suite. And Emily, it looks like you're sitting out in a pumpkin patch.
You're right, Bill. I thought this was the perfect place to announce that Shocktober is back on Hollywood Suite, and it's better than ever.
Okay, well, what do you got for us?
Well, we've got something for every member of the family, tricks and treats of all decades, of all sorts. We've got lighter fare like Edward Scissorhands or Jurassic Park, but we also have some really spooky stuff like The Evil Dead or Peeping Tom or Jordan Peele's Us to really delight you.
Okay, give me one of your favorite Halloween movies.
I'm going to say Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, which we do have on Hollywood Suite. It is the only entry in the Halloween franchise that does not have Michael Myers, and it is a wild time, so I highly recommend watching it this season.
All right, well, there you have it. Shocktober, all month on Hollywood Suite. Thank you, Emily.
Thank you, Bill.
Here they are again, Cote and Michael. You guys are both executive producers, so basing it in Europe, was that when you were kicking around the idea, and I understand you did for a while, setting it in Europe was always a priority?
It was, and I tell you what, because it was a continuation of a storyline. DiNozzo ends up going to Paris, and so we really do hear that they are living not in the United States. So we want it to be true to the original Mothership storyline, where the characters are not living in the States. And the one that made sense, obviously, was Paris. Now, how could we get Paris? Now we ran across one issue, which is we wanted to shoot 2024, and it was
the Olympics.
So technically, the idea of shooting in Paris was almost impossible. So then we had to find another wonderful city that could also serve as the backdrop for Paris. And Budapest has a very well-oiled machine when it comes to film and TV. There's a huge what is
Production
it?
base.
Production base, yeah.
I've been to the Cote studios in Budapest, and I guess the Borges was shooting there years ago with Jeremy Irons, and it's an astounding city, you know, and
beautiful.
All those circular streets, you've got car chases and everything going on. So yeah, it must have been beautiful to have an opportunity to discover Budapest, right?
Beautiful, and we were there for 6 months.
Yeah. And then we went to the Canary Islands.
Oh, well, that's all right too.
Yeah.
But did you? I don't know if you had much downtime. You had a chance to sightsee. I remember going to the horror house. There was this very sad and tremendously terrible museum that was about all the invasion.
Was it about the torture? Like, where they tortured people? And
it was, you know, the Nazis and the Soviets. You know, it was just, they had this history going back to the Turks, and it's a very disturbing place. So I guess probably you may not have had a chance to visit it, but it.
Oh yeah, no.
I'll tell you what I got to see about Budapest that was beautiful. First of all, Michael, you were living in Buda, right?
Yes.
I was living in Pest, and
right. Wow.
the Danube is beautiful, and we were living right by the chain bridge, which is gorgeous. And then I had a couple of days off at the beginning, and I went off to the wine region, which is beautiful. So I did a couple of days in hotels, and I would go to these little restaurants, and it was really beautiful. It had sort of the best of the, you know, stone farmhouse feel, but it was this rustic, laid back.
But you couldn't get an Uber.
You couldn't get an Uber. No, that was so true. You couldn't get an Uber, so I had to pay a ridiculous,
I remember your taxi fee.
I was like, it was ridiculous because it was 3 minutes away. But then, you know, really what you were paying for was a person to wait for you for 2 hours so you could have your meal. So at the end, my meal was pretty much the same price.
It must have been easier to put yourself into these characters, though, in this exotic kind of otherworldly, old world place, right?
Very much so.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting thing, is the shift. So when I was approaching the beginning of shooting and had spent all the months that we had done talking about where we were going to be, it really landed on me that that Donoso is now running his own company, and he's been a father on his own up until the flashbacks, you know, for 4 years, and he's been taking care of this child on his own, and he's had all these responsibilities. That here is this single guy who slept in a single bed in his Georgetown apartment on NCIS. He, you know, a man who ran from children, ran from any kind of commitment, any kind of responsibility except for his badge and his gun. And here he is, almost the exact polar opposite set of attributes. And I thought, well, God, is he going to be any fun? Like, geez, is this guy, how do I play this guy? And the beautiful thing is I didn't have to think too hard, because Cote shows up and we look at each other, and you know, we're off to the races, because you're such a fun person to work with, and you don't have to think about it. Like, I can get in my head about it too much, and then Cote is like, oh, let's be here, and I'm like, oh yes, let's do that. Okay, yeah.
And you're both parents now too, I understand, in real life, right? So
yes.
This storyline where your daughter for Tony and Ziva is really, you know, there's every parent's worst nightmare, you know, the protecting a young child, right? So it must have helped in the scenes with the young actress who's playing your daughter to relate to her, right?
Yes. Also, Isla is so connected. You know, she's this old soul. She's very curious. I'm not sure if you know much about Isla Guy, but she's a theater kid, and she comes from, you know, sort of leading roles in the West End, and also she's a gymnast, like a very good gymnast.
Wow!
So
wow.
It's kind of funny that the universe put this child, and that she's playing our child, because she is so connected to her body, but yet there's a part of her that is so grounded, you know. She could not be a better Tali.
And she's roughly the same age as my children. And so when they came to visit the set, they became friends with Isla, and that, you know, that was weird for them. To have like
nice.
dad's kid on TV and then
TV
dad's
kid
kids
and then,
yeah.
That's kind of fun. And, speaking of gymnasts, a lot of you guys are running all over the place, a lot of action and fights and punching. And I'm sure you all have doubles, but what was it like just prepping for that? Did you have fight specialists who kind of help you out with all of that?
Yes. I remember I flew in 2 or 3 weeks early, just because I wanted to work through the jet lag. And then also because I had a huge fight sequence in the first episode, which is the first episode where I go and I basically save Tali and blah, 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 where there's the running through the streets of Paris. And that was, I remember thinking like, okay, I've been doing some training, I can do this, but I remember it kicked my butt. That fight sequence was, first of all, really long. I put a lot of effort, a lot of time.
Yeah.
And then while we were shooting that stunt sequence, we actually had 2 stunt doubles go through a little bit of an injury. So we finished the sequence with me.
Yeah.
Ouch.
We got the big stunts out of the way, and there were 2 that were really big. And unfortunately, one of them got hurt. She hit her head, and then the other one got hurt and sort of slammed her finger in a kind of a brutal way. But by then, we had the sort of dangerous bits covered, and then we could get into all of the other stuff. But these things happen. They're really scary, and it's just kind of... I hate saying it's the nature of the beast, because it shouldn't be, but danger is just a part of the thing when you're fighting.
Usually they don't let the stars get at risk in that way. I mean, everybody's holding their breath if you're taking a...
Bill, I want you to know I did my own love scenes.
Did you?
I want to be very clear about that.
Wow.
Robert Wagner told me, he said, never let the stunt double in there. You make
amazing.
sure. So I got some good pieces of advice.
If you want advice on love scenes, go to Robert Wagner, I think.
It was not a bad
By the way,
idea.
not a bad place to get your advice.
No kidding.
I wanted to say, too, the shooting in Budapest and where that came from, obviously was from the studio, ultimately working with John McNamara, the writer and executive producer and creator, really, of this world. But all the way through... our partner was really David Staff in all of this, which, and he's been at CBS Studios forever, and is really just such a partner and a friend to creative people. And I just...
He was always intrigued.
Yeah.
Always. From the get-go, I said, hey, and Michael obviously had his own conversations with David, but the idea that we were bringing forth these 2 characters, that first of all, we were still interested in exploring what that relationship was. And at one point, because by the way, throughout the many years in which we've talked about this, we've had many incantations of what these stories could potentially be. And the funny thing is that at one point they were really dark, and then they sort of moved into this lighter kind of thing. And I think right now where we settled was actually a pretty good balance. You get to explore the past through therapy, which gets to integrate a little bit of Siva. You get to see the evolution of Donoso and how he is also showing this incredible I wouldn't say ease, because I don't think it's that, certainly not for him, but you do see a vulnerability in him that is very different from what you saw in the mothership. So there is a grown-up thing that happens with giving a little rest between 20 years ago or 11 years ago, and then giving it a little time and then sort of catching them where they are now.
Back with the stars of Tony and Ziva in just a moment. Jordan Tutu's life has been predicated on his determination to rise above the pressures of being the first Inuk player in the NHL, addiction, and tragic loss. Watch the story of this former NHL enforcer in Tutu, a Canadian original premiering exclusively on Super Channel starting Friday, October 24th. What else can you see on Super Channel? Well, here are some exciting scenes.
The one thing that you're going to have to remember is to protect your quarterback, me.
What do you think about being a soldier and a father?
I hope that being good at the one makes me better at the other.
There's a strict hierarchy in ancient Egypt, and the pharaoh is at the top. and therefore they have divine authority.
They were totalitarian.
Can I help you?
Word on the street is you need a sous chef.
No offense, you don't look like a sous chef.
And what does a sous chef look like?
For starters, they never have a manicure.
I'm building something.
The Lightwave Surf Company.
We'd be selling an idea of paradise.
And we're back. I thought it was clever. I don't know if it was the first or second episode, but there was a scene where you turn to Tony and say, "Oh, wait a minute. So you're going to be kicking an ass. Now you're going to be the charming and playful one." You know, and it was fun that you flipped it that way early, because that allowed you to keep going in different directions the rest of the series, right?
Yes, it's about that. We tackled two big themes throughout season 1: trust and
Truth.
Which I mean, double T.
Yeah, it has some truthiness to it.
Yeah, it has to, and basically with that comes the vulnerability, and so the trust is obviously earned by how much truth you can handle, and in this case, the exploration of that is what, in essence, is season 1.
There's another line where Donoso says, "Well, that was me being funny, Dad. Now I'm being serious, Dad." And Isla says, "Oh, nice to meet you." And while it's a funny line, but it's a true line, because what he's really saying is, I'm not sure I've been completely honest with you. I don't know if I've been he was trying to be the dad. He was trying to play the dad, and he was walking on eggshells around all the responsibilities and all the weight of that. And so the show journey for him is well, now you're actually going to meet somebody who's going to be devastated by loss, and you're going to feel it. Somebody who's going to confess his true feelings, and you're going to see it. And
you said this earlier before, and it jumped at me, and I thought it was so beautiful. You said in the journey of parenting, it's true, you need to sort of rise to the occasion and try to be the best version of yourself, the healed version of yourself, whatever that looks like. So you could be the best version for your child. But then you said, but you also have to be the honest version, because the flawed version of you is also important for them to see. And by that, there was something that I thought, wow, sage advice, because it's true. We are not like superheroes, nor do we want to be. There is an acknowledgement of things that we may do that may not be totally okay. And that's okay. And I think what we have always been interested in doing is to explore that part of a relationship, the truth, the ugly bits too.
Right. I mean, it's not Landman. We're not going full Billy Bob.
No, we're not going Billy Bob Thornton, but because it still needs to live in fun world.
It's not Landman, but what I found interesting is the occasional F-bomb gets dropped in this other platform on Paramount, and that helps, I think, make it seem more real and truthy in those situations, even though it's jarring because we're used to seeing these characters in broadcasts, right?
Right, and maybe that'll age well.
That's the distinction. We had it, and we met these characters in broadcasts, so you never heard them say, any bad words or anything like that. And like you said, it lives in another world. There's more freedom in every which way, and you're seeing sexy stuff is also.
Oh yeah, there's a little bit of sexy stuff.
Nice, good. Well, yeah. Now, what was that? Speaking of sexy stuff, maybe I don't know. For you guys, I mean, you hadn't. From what I understand, it had been quite a few years since you guys even had gotten together. Was it easy to refine that same chemistry that you enjoyed on the show on NCIS?
I don't think that ever left, to be fair. There was a lot of time sometimes, especially when Michael was doing Bull and I was in Los Angeles, every once in a while, maybe once a year, if we were lucky, I think we'd meet up for dinner, and I was visiting New York, and then I'd say, hey, Michael, and he'd say, hey, let's get together and let's have dinner. Well, it was the kind of thing that we'd have dinner, and it was like being with just one of these people that you've known forever and ever and ever, where time doesn't, it's as if time never happened. You just pick up exactly where you left off, laughing at the same things, inside jokes, that level of you look at each other, you know exactly what you're thinking. So that part has always been there, but that's not just a professional thing. That's an us thing.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that it's like Cary Grant and Ingrid Bergman in Notorious and then Indiscreet. You know, and when you get to that sort of later stage Grant exchange, you see Bergman, you know, and she's just trying to like find this thing, and all the blankets, all the sheets are on the furniture, and she's coming in and she's like, I don't want to be a bother, I don't want to be a bother. And then she has that meeting with Grant, and you know, you go back to Notorious with the two of them having that long screen kiss, and there's something about those two actors together that you know that they got along famously. You just see the chemistry that they have, and it's something that I think Cote and I, the only time we ever talk about this shit is when we do these interviews.
Yeah, and it's funny because we don't like to even acknowledge it, because we're like, oh god,
because it's like, you know,
it just
kind
of lives in its own thing, and we're like, let's not touch it.
Yeah, we're very happy.
Very natural. Yeah, no, it's there on the screen. It's great. And the other comparison I think of a bit is and this goes back away from memories, but the old Avengers British series. I don't know if either of you remember that one with Emma Peel, you know, and everything. It was nice because, as you mentioned earlier, trying to find the tone, and you had to keep some of the humor in it and not make it too dark, and that was that series for me anyway. So
absolutely,
and memories of that.
And that was in that era of David McCallum's Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Right. Yeah.
And working with David and working with that original cast, what was so great is somebody like McCallum was a magical creature because he was such a pro, so steeped in the I used to just nail him down to a corner somewhere. He'd be like, oh God, here comes Weatherly. And I'd be like, do you mind? Can we just talk about the greatest story ever told? Or I just want to hear about the Great Escape. Or, you know, when you did, and Mosquito Squadron, and he would be
Night to Remember.
A Night to Remember, right?
Yeah.
And he and Robert Wagner had worked together on a 1960s World War II prison show, Colditz. It was called Colditz. And
I remember that, but I heard that, yeah.
And so when they met again, you know, in the table read, watching Robert Wagner and David McCallum engage with each other, or watching James Garner.
Wasn't he the one that told you about the props? Was he the one that told you about, like, David McCallum and the props?
But watching David McCallum
was very funny.
Meet James Garner when Garner walked in to do, because he was going to play Gibbs' dad before Ralph Waite came on to do it.
Oh my God!
But Garner had a health thing and he couldn't do it. But he was there for the table read, and David and Garner hadn't seen each other in forever, but they were in The Great Escape together. And I was sitting right there when they saw each other in the doorway, and it was like, oh my God, Jill Ireland had an affair with Charles Bronson on the set of The Great Escape.
Wow.
And it was like Garner who, like, it's just so good. I go crazy for that stuff. And David McCallum's autograph is the only autograph I have in my study. And it's a picture of him and Steve McQueen. And David gave it to me. He goes, I know you love McQueen, but my autograph's more interesting. You know.
Well, I saw McCallum. I was out on one of the press tours in LA, and somebody brought to him a lunchbox, Man from U.N.C.L.E. lunchbox, and he autographed it. But what a self-effacing, humble, charming man.
Wonderful guy. And we got to learn from all of those guys.
I bet.
Mark Harmon and everybody, just like Bob Newhart.
And watch them work really intricate bits out. You know, I remember once McCallum was we were all doing this very tough scene, and it was a lot of mumbo jumbo, so a lot of dialogue that was quite data based. And he was the king of that. He had to memorize a lot of that stuff. And there was a moment there where we were like, hey David, do you want us to write the text down or something? Which is something that, it's fine. We just, we were like, it's okay. We've all done it at some point, because it's a lot. And he was adamant. He was like, leave me alone. And he got through it like the pro that he was,
Back with the stars of Tony and Ziva in just a moment. Have you been watching NCIS Tony and Ziva on Paramount Plus? Anthony Tony Donazo Jr. is a former NCIS special agent played by Michael Weatherly. Yes, he's a charming, sometimes comedic, often flirtatious guy. Ziva David, played by Cote Pablo, first appears as a Mossad liaison to NCIS and becomes one of the core characters despite her burdens from the past. Together, the Tiva storyline is one of the most beloved and slow-burning in NCIS history. Catch up with Tony and Ziva as they take their act to Europe, where, between all the banter and bickering, they continue to take on the world in this new series. And remember, there's a mountain of entertainment on Paramount Plus. Here they are again, Cody and Michael. I'm getting flagged. I got to wrap things up just quickly, and this is maybe unfair to ask quickly, but what do you think? Viewers have such a hold. They hold you guys that this relationship really high, and that they really, really wanted this for years and years to see you again. What do you think it is about the two of you together in these characters that makes them feel that way?
Well, gosh, sometimes that's just the magic of the stuff that falls out of the sky that you can be grateful for. It's the fairy dust that got sprinkled on us by the magical creatures from the forest. I mean, what do you think?
I don't know. I don't know. I think there are some mysteries that are better left mysterious. I don't know.
All right. Okay. Well, we'll leave it there. Listen, you must have a very full schedule promoting the show, but congratulations. It's a lot of fun to watch, and looking forward to talking to you in seasons 2 or 3 or wherever this leads. So nice to meet you both.
Thank you.
Bye, Bill. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye,
Take
Bill.
care. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. My thanks again to Michael Weatherly and Cote Pablo. A lot of fun talking to them both. I hope we have another conversation, perhaps in a year for season 2. Fingers crossed. And also, thank you to Paramount Plus, not only for setting up these interviews, but also for the great video and audio that they provided. Much appreciated. And you can catch that video. This is a special video and audio episode on my YouTube channel under my name, Bill Brio. Thanks always to my special agent as well as producer, Phil Hong, who probably should be working with Tony Donazo and at his big security firm there, he'd get a lot more money. And kudos as always to the Crispy Critters who provide the music for the series, BJ Del Conte, Paul Boudra, and piano man Stephen Dudley. Finally, thanks to you, listener and viewer. If you like what you heard, please spread the word. I'm Bill Brio. Thanks for listening.